Okay, and we're back now with part two of two, MGMT203, Principles of Project Management, week one. Having fun still. I know I am. I hope you are. So, what is the role of the project manager? Well, the project manager is ultimately responsible. That can never be confused. And they are leading the team to achieve the objectives. And to achieve the objectives of your project, you have to make sure you remain aligned with the corporate desires, right? And you're working with, as we discussed via the various organizational types, functional and operational managers. You could be involved in the project selection process, but normally not. If you are, you just have a sitting role. You're just listening and you're noting down stakeholders, risks, requirements as you hear high-level stakeholders talk about it. Okay, there's some other things to review in the slide, but just know that your sphere of influence will have a lot to do with the relationships you have and the communications you have and the positive attitude. So develop those because those are some of your powers as a project manager. So that sphere of influence, the reason you need those powers is it's quite extensive, right? And so you're going to need throughout excellent communication skills within your team, at the very center, out here to meet project objectives with your team. And PPP is project, program, or portfolio managers. You can communicate with them, like-minded people, resource managers, like the functional managers. What about the sponsors, the executives in the company, some governing body, or your PMO office above you, and even customers, end users, or people external to your project. You're having to communicate with a broad swath of people, and so you need to develop those interpersonal skills. So the project manager proactively interacts with other project managers. You're sharing the resources and knowledge that you have found, as well as receiving back from them. The project manager also plays an advocacy role for the project, and they work with their team members, corporate managers, and the sponsor of the project who owns the budget to advance the project. And of course, there is tacit and explicit knowledge. Explicit knowledge is everything we pretty much understand or know or are learning. Tacit knowledge are things that we know but are hard to explain. Just a quick example would be define a family. Well, we all know what a family is, but it can be hard to explain. That's tacit knowledge. But you're bringing both of those together, and you want to stay informed of current trends, standards, etc. In your project work. Now, Project Management Institute says that project manager competencies include technical and business and leadership strategies. I personally say that there are 4 pillars to any project management professional. You have to have leadership skills, management skills, interpersonal skills, and technical skills. Technical skills in 2 areas. 1, the industry you work in, and 2, in project management, technical skills that we learn in this course and others like it. The key is that you are never done developing those 4 pillars, ever. No matter how strong or weak you are at any category, don't worry about it. Develop all of them regularly for the rest of your life. Now, but the Project Management Institute talks specifically about technical, strategic, business, and leadership skills. So here's kind of a summary of the technical skills that they want you to have. You can find more about that in the PMBOK guide. In fact, they call it the talent triangle, right? Where they mention leadership, strategic and business management knowledge, and technical knowledge. This is what they would emphasize from a strategic and business management skills, and which again helps us to align our project deliverable with the corporate objectives along the way. And of course, here's a summary of leadership skills, this leadership arm of the leadership triangle, the talent triangle they call it. You have to have the art of influence. You have to be a lifelong learner. You need to be able to manage relationships and prioritize from an enterprise view. So within your project and understanding the corporate goals, objectives, and standards. When it comes to leadership, we always want to consider politics and power. I list here a bunch of forms of power, which are best, which are worst, along the way. I give some examples of either people or movies, like situational power. There's a great movie called Flight of the Phoenix you may want to review yourself. As a boss, you have reward power and punitive power, which is considered worst. As an expert, we all have power, right? Like technologists. Continuing with leadership, management is more about directing. Leadership is guiding, influencing, setting the vision, goals, etc. It really breaks them apart. And there are various leadership styles that you can adapt, right? Some better than others. I do not prefer laissez-faire, right? Many of us are transactional, but you can read those and enjoy them. They're in the book as well, the PMBOK guide. So the project manager's role, their single role is to integrate all the knowledge areas, all the information. This is why you are wholly responsible for the success of your project, right? You'll integrate processes, knowledge, and context to produce a deliverable that's aligned at the strategic and project levels. And so you'll want to integrate with the enterprise view, right, which is dynamic, multiple parts. And you'll want, the complexity becomes it results in behavior and risk that you will have to consider along the way. Now, here's some key terms. I just leave it here. You can pause, read it for yourself. It's meant to be self-explanatory, also in the PMBOK guide, but things you need to know. We're here. One measure of our success as a project manager is to satisfy the needs of the stakeholders. That, even if a project fails, can be a measure of success, okay? Always take lessons learned, understand regulations versus standards, understand how we achieve alignment of our objectives, starting with developing a project charter, and that we're driving another measure of success besides meeting the needs of the stakeholders is attaining the baselines. Those are schedule, cost, and scope. We're going to have to tailor and make trade-offs, because when one changes, like cost, it'll impact your scope and schedule, and you need to keep the triangle aligned. But that's another measure of success as a project manager. So as a project manager, it's important to understand what constraints are. They limit options, and assumptions. Assumptions are things that are true without proof. Hey, to me, that's a risk. So here's your summary project management slide. There are 5 process groups. And these are the processes within each of the process groups that will help you drive your project to success. Various documents the project manager uses. You can pause here. I've explained them pretty well, and they're also in the PMBOK guide. Understand that though the PMBOK guide lists the process groups in vertical lines, a project really doesn't work that way. A project really is dynamic. Notice the initiating process group. You're continuing, even though you've begun the project, that initiating continues into planning. Notice the planning curve goes throughout the project almost to closing, and that executing begins in the initiating process group, but is really continues until closing, as well as monitoring and closing. This is really how a project works, not in a vertical. When we show it in the vertical, that's useful, but this is really how it works dynamically. Now, let me take a quick pause and go to some other slides to conclude this lesson. So to conclude this week's conversation, of course, this only supplements the readings in the PMBOK guide. We're going to talk about, at the corporate level, you have tools that are available to you that will help you make decisions in that alignment with your project between that and the corporate level. And so the primary tools and techniques that are used are often found in the risk management chapter, and they relate to data gathering and data analysis, right? We can do brainstorming and interviewing and documentation reviews. We can do root cause analysis. We want to analyze our assumptions. As I mentioned, they become risks. We want to analyze constraints, but there's also SWOT. strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, that sort of analysis. So SWOT analysis examines the project to identify its strengths and weaknesses at a strategic level, as well as opportunities and threats that can originate. And we can use checklist analysis as a way to, with the risk categories, to address our issues. So these are a lot of the tools you can use to make sure you're aligned with the corporate strategy. I want to focus on SWOT analysis. So in a box, we could leverage strengths, weaknesses, which we want to eliminate or mitigate. Strengths we want to leverage. Opportunities are external, and we want to pursue or maximize them. And threats are also external. We want to avoid them. Okay. Also, to understand the SWOT and to fill it out, I often recommend these prompt lists. PESTLE, VUCA, and TCOP. Those are listed in the PMBOK guide as well. PESTLE just stands for, they're acronyms. This stands for political, economic, social, technical, legal, and environmental. It says consider those factors when you're trying to brainstorm with your team SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Another prompt that is useful is VUCA. Consider volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And then, of course, TCOP. Consider technical, environmental, commercial, operational, and political areas. Now, this is a sample SWOT. This isn't a SWOT filled in, but notice its strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. There's external here and internal here. That will be on any template. But these are good prompt questions to help you address. They're not the answers to strengths. Strengths would be specific things to your project or your corporation, but they are prompts for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats to help you ask the right questions. So that's worth noting for your discussion / assignment for this week. Okay, that is pretty neat. That really is all I have. I did want to assess some other risks as a project manager. So you'll want to consider business risk when you go over PESTLE, TCOP, VUCA, or SWOT to fill in your SWOT. You want to consider business risks or even pure risk, maybe risk that's insurable. You want to assess a sense of loss. Don't forget there are non-event risks. What does that mean, Andy Molnar? Well, that means there are variability risks, which is an uncertainty about some characteristics that make it challenging to predict the future. Weather is variable. I can't really predict it. But there's also ambiguity risk, where there's imperfect knowledge that's going to affect our objectives due to a lack of understanding. So overall, as we ensure this alignment with the corporate level, we want to make sure that we build in project resilience, right? We want to be able to address unknowable unknowns. Unknowable unknowns means we don't know about them, so we didn't prepare for them. How can we be resilient to that? Well, we can do it by building in contingency reserves into our project, creating flexible processes, using empowerment and trust with our team, having frequent reviews of warning signals or triggers, and using clear input where the project scope and strategy can be adjusted. Okay, that wraps it up. Let's have fun this week. I'll see you online.